Hello, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly. Today, I will be speaking with Jamaal Finkley, who is the CEO and executive producer of blacktreetv, where we will discuss why Black media is important. So make sure to listen to the end where Jamaal will share what he's up to next and how you can be in touch with him. Before I turn it over to Jamaal, I actually want to read a little bit from his bio, okay? Jamaal is a 20-year journalism veteran. He is the CEO and producer of blacktreetv. Utilizing his extensive editorial experience, Jamaal has developed Blacktree into one of YouTube's most vibrant entertainment, news, and lifestyle platforms, generating more than 15 million unique visitors monthly and more than 1 billion video views worldwide since inception. Jamaal began his entertainment career as a production assistant for legendary director Spike Lee and has become an influential voice on the urban entertainment landscape, having conducted definitive interviews with A-list celebs such as Johnny Depp, Angelina Jolie, Monique, and Will Smith. As a producer, he has generated content for organizations such as TV One, Stellar Gospel Music Awards, and Disney, while as a journalist, he has covered Hollywood's top award shows and red carpets, such as the Academy Awards, MTV Video Music Awards, the Golden Globes, American Music Awards, the Grammy Awards, SAG Awards, as well as pop culture events such as SuperBowl, NBA All-Star, and Fashion Week. Oh my to goodness. You have been a busy guy, huh?
I have been.
So Jamaal, welcome. And you know that I'm extremely proud of you and how far you have come. I met you while you were attending Vanderbilt College in Tennessee, and Blacktree was a dream being developed. So I want you to tell us a little bit how it all came about.
Well, while I was in school, and first, thanks for having me, Miss Kelly K. It is a pleasure, and I'm a little bit even more bashful being on this in the hot seat just because it's you, and I have so much admiration and respect for you and all the stuff that you've impressed upon me during my career. Blacktree started as kind of a selfish need for me to hear the topics I wanted to hear on the news. I kind of remember, I don't know if it's a fuzzy memory, but I know when we first went to war with Iraq, the first Desert Storm, and I kind of remember them getting all of these people that didn't really speak for my community to have opinions on what we should do. And you know, what I wanted to hear from the music artists I was listening to at the time, which whether it was Biggie or Nas or whoever is, I wanted to hear what they thought about certain issues, whether it be war or the economy or just, you know, anything like state of politics or stuff. And so my first inclination was to solve that problem, was to get a camera and start asking them those questions myself. Of course, I didn't know the whole process. So, you know, the first thing was just getting the camera, which as a college student was a task, but I used some of my Pell Grant money and Stafford loan money to try to get a camera instead of some of the books I may have needed to get. And from there, it was just an adventure, journey and trying to figure out how to be a media professional, how to be a media organization, how to work the camera, you know, how to conduct the interview. And because I wasn't coming from that frame of studies, it was all learning in the field for me. So it's been a real journey, I would say.
Awesome. So tell me this, how did you connect with Spike Lee? When did that happen?
Well, actually, and curiously enough, it has a lot more, he has a lot more to do with the story than just giving me this first opportunity to work on a film set. But while I was going to school at Vanderbilt in Nashville, he was shooting a movie about the Million Man March called Get on the Bus. And the movie had some of the, I mean, it had Ozzie Davis, Bernie Mac, Wendell Pierce, Isaiah Washington. It had a lot of great, Hill Harper, a lot of great characters in the movie who I admired, as well as Spike Lee. And he was shooting in Nashville and Cookeville, Tennessee, which is a little bit like 2 hours outside of Nashville. He came, his Jackie Robinson Foundation recruited people from Fisk and Tennessee State and Vanderbilt to work on a project. So I was one of the students that he picked from Vanderbilt. And the funny thing about the story is that there was a character in the movie. I don't know if any of your viewers have watched Get on the Bus, but it's a great movie.
I've seen that movie, yes.
There's a character on the movie played by Hill Harper called Xavier. And Xavier's job was to journal what was going on that bus on that trip to the Million Man March. And the camera that Xavier used was the Sony DCR VX1000 camera. And the first thing I did was buy that camera. And if you think about it, and Spike being this guy that was always on the just on the forefront of what's gonna happen next. This character he had in the movie was kind of like the first blogger. It was the first guy you seen in a movie with a camera doing interviews that wasn't a journalist. And that character of Xavier kind of became me. Or I became that character, or tried to fashion myself off that character to the point of buying that exact same camera, and that being like my first camera that I started, going out on my journeys to try to do interviews with. And I've spoken to Spike about it several times, and that experience working on that set not only gave me that curiosity of journalism, but it also just opened my eyes to what happens behind the camera to make creation like film or the video content I was creating, where I always as a viewer just saw the picture and didn't really think about all the elements that went into it. And I think just that experience opened my eyes to entertainment and media, and made me curious enough to just go on this journey.
Absolutely incredible. So tell me a little bit about how Blacktree works and what it does. What is Blacktree all about?
Well, Blacktree Media, Blacktree started as the Blacktree Business Network, and at the time, in the mid to late '90s, a lot of companies were just starting to come together, like MCI Global. There was all these mergers that just started to happen, and I felt as a young enthused college student that we needed to have something for the Black community that would be a conglomerate. So instead of us having all the capital to have, to buy up companies, I said we was gonna make this network of companies, and it would be under this Blacktree umbrella, under this tree, and that we would all work together to promote each other's businesses and to utilize each other as if we were one business. So instead of somebody just being a screen printer or artist or a camera guy, we all were like one company that could do whatever job it took, and we kind of worked together like that. And after that, Blacktree Media was born as a separate media outlet to promote media, because at this time the internet was still in its infancy. There weren't a lot of websites that had anything other than static text and some images, but video was just reaching the web in a way. And so when I started Blacktree Media, it was I felt like the opportunity to become a media outlet and compete with your local news agencies or CNN were being afforded because of the internet, because I could reach everybody, whereas Ted Turner had to, raise $900 million to send a transponder on a satellite up to launch CNN, where all I needed was a website or a web address. And because of that, that's how I kind of equaled the playing field and started distributing my content online early. I like to say that I was the first new media, because even before a lot of these outlets, major outlets, were distributing content on their websites, that was like my only way to distribute content. And these companies had, broadcast feeds, cable feeds, and I was just distributing online. So early on, if you looked online, we were one of the first people to put video online in the way that we were doing it, especially like news media video. So that's how we kind of started. We kind of stayed in the lane of trying to be friendly to technology and innovation, and to be innovation leaders within our community, and that fueled Black Tree through its infancy, and until now. Now we've grown. We found different distribution platforms, whether it be TV shows, which we're featured on a number of TV shows currently and in the past, or documentaries. But the web has always been our backbone. So our YouTube channel, which now has generated, we have 14 YouTube channels, and together we're close to 2 billion views. We're, I think, at 1.6 or 1.7 billion views combined within all of our YouTube channels. And Black Tree Media, our main channel, I think, is at 700 million on its own. So we've been able to deliver a lot of video views to the world over time, and it's something that we're still trying to perfect, the way to even be bigger, to reach more audiences, and to tell more stories, and to have more journalists. And it's innovation never stops. So you can't just kind of stop where you kind of got the advantage. You got to keep on looking for the next advantage. So part of our time is trying to figure out what's next and how to be first in that space, as we feel like we were in just in general on the web.
All right, a visionary over here. I'm loving it. So when people go to YouTube, what are some of the content that we'll see? What are some of the things that are posted on your site?
Our content is mostly entertainment, news media, but with some cultural conscious. So like, we like to speak about the issues that are directly affecting our community. But what we also like to do is spread those conversations to a diverse audience. Like, a lot of times I'll hire young journalists, and there'll be a film, there'll be a movie that we're covering. And let's say the movie has one big Black star. Let's say it's Michael B. Jordan starring among some white actors, and we're dealing with something like George Floyd and the civil unrest that followed his death. What I would tell my young journalists is, like, don't just go to Michael B. Jordan and ask that question. If you could ask Michael B. Jordan that question, you could also ask Robert Downey Jr. that question. And I feel like those conversations is something that we've been able to be, we've represented, we're Black Tree, but we've had a number of different hosts of different ethnicities, and we talk to everybody. We don't just cover the quote unquote Black movies, and we don't just talk to Black actors in particular, but we like to give what we say is a reflection of what the Black questions would be, what Black people are curious about, and we watch all type of movies and all type of TV shows. So we just like to be there to be in that conversation, to either just talk about how great the actor is, or the TV show, what's new and entertaining for people to watch. But sometimes we get to talk about more serious stuff that's currently happening, whether it's the election or trafficking or police brutality or whatever we feel like is in the ether of the conversation of the Black community, we kind of bring that to our questions while we're talking to celebrities about their current projects. So that's mostly what you'll find on there, is mostly entertainment stuff. We cover some sports. We've covered the Olympics. We've covered some NASCAR. We've covered some NBA All-Star, but we mostly focus on movies even more than TV. But now in this age of streaming, especially this last year, we've been definitely more covering streaming content and what's coming out new on Amazon and Netflix, as opposed to the movie premieres and stuff that we used to be known for, because they've been absent for almost a year now. So
yeah. Wow, Jamaal, this is so exciting. I'm really having a wonderful time learning more about the work that you've done. Now, what I would like to know, what are some of the hurdles you've had to overcome to make sure that Black media has a voice?
Wow. I mean, I'm still jumping a lot of hurdles. I mean, as access was probably the biggest hurdle for us. A lot of times on the red carpets, you wouldn't see any Black media organizations. BET once held a news organization, but as many of viewers probably know, BET is owned by Viacom, so it's not a Black-owned organization per se. But even just to have, a Black brand like BET get rid of their news some 15 years ago, we haven't had a lot of outlets on the carpet at these big red carpets, whether it's Grammys or a big movie premiere or the Oscars. And part of what I've had to fight for is access. And a lot of times, like anything else, a Black college student makes it into a big prestigious college. Everybody wonders if it's just because they were Black or whatever else. So what we've had to do is fight for, like, we have the numbers, and it's like that's what people couldn't argue against. It's like, hey, well, we have, we've on YouTube, we've had over 100 videos do 1 million views or more. We have 2 videos that's over 100 million views on their own. So we've had like the proof in the pudding, like, hey, a lot of our stuff goes viral, a lot of our conversations go viral, and a lot of it gets picked up by TV news outlets, documentaries. And because we had those analytics, luckily Google and YouTube provided a lot of analytics that we could go and go into these meetings with the studios or with the academies that we needed to speak to for whether it's recording or Academy of Motion Pictures and Television, to get on their red carpet and say, hey, look, we have this many views, we have this type of viewership, we represent this audience and it's global, and we're known and respected among these communities. We should have access just like these other companies. And that fight continues till this day. Even with the numbers, it's still a fight just to make people listen or look at your numbers, So that's been one hurdle. 2 is just having the people that you would think represent our culture, like, give us the same type of value that they give other people. Like, you'll see Ava DuVernay or somebody like retweet a Variety article from Variety or Hollywood Reporter, but not an article from Hip Hollywood or Blacktree as often. And sometimes it's like, hey, give us the same significance that you give those other companies, because we were there before you became the Ava DuVernay that you are, before you became the Michael B. Jordan that he is. And we have such a long history that we were a lot of these people's first big interviews, but when nobody else was covering them, we were covering them.
Wow.
I remember once when Michael B. Jordan, I can't remember, it might have been 14, 15 years ago, he was on a show on HBO called The Wire. He was young and he was living in New Jersey, and his mom, I was out here, and New York to cover, where I'm actually in New York right now. I was out here to cover a film. I believe it was Miracle at St. Anna, which was another one of Spike Lee's films. And his mom called, or she emailed me, she got in contact with me somehow while I was in town. It's like, I just want you to interview. I would like you to interview my son. He's on this show called The Wire, and HBO is doing press rounds, but they're not including him in the press rounds. I remember I took like the PATH train, the PATH to New Jersey, and met in the hotel lobby of a W hotel. I met a young Michael B. Jordan and interviewed him like before he was getting any big press. So we look at people like that, a lot of times they'll remember that, but sometimes they forget that you were there for them like way back. And a lot of times they support you and making sure that you always get an interview. One of the things that really hurt me in this past year, after all the people that we lost in this world due to the pandemic, and a lot of celebrities that have been lost over the years, but one that really touched me personally was Chadwick Boseman, because I was one of his first interviews on his movie 42, and no matter what carpet it was, he would make sure I would get an interview, and people would feel certain kinds of way about it. They would feel like he was doing favoritism, and later we found out he was struggling, so it wasn't like he had like the energy to do all these interviews, but for some reason he would always make sure that he would come give me a sound bite, that he would stop by me. And it's like, it's people like that kept keep Blacktree going, and make us feel like we're fulfilling a purpose that, that we hope we continue to fulfill.
Wow. Well, listening to you say this, all I keep thinking, Black Lives Matter. My neighbors have signs on their windows, and you walk up and down the street and you see Black Lives Matter. My thing is, how much do they really matter? Are you really willing to let a Black person buy a house without jacking up the price on it? Are you willing to let someone like you come in and be a part of the game? So how much do Black lives really matter? Anyways, that's a whole nother story. So
Yeah,
we're going to see how that plays out. And hopefully it will. I believe in my soul that it will, because it's people like you, they're going to keep pushing forward to make it happen. And as far as
yeah,
Black people not supporting you, other actors and whatnot, you know what? That's going to change too. I really believe it. So just hang in there with that. What I'd like to know from you now, give me 3 people that have inspired you. Only 3 people. And
three
tell me
people
why
that
they
have
inspired you.
inspired me. Uh, that's a hard question. Because you don't want to leave out so many people that's been so important to who you are. I mean, you know, my kids could be all 3 of those people, but I'll say, like, just from uh kind of an external, not as much as my family and people that are kind of like integral to me. I think I've been inspired by Ted Turner. Um, I've been inspired by Spike Lee, Tyler Perry. You know, and I'm not, and I can say with honestly, like, I'm not a big Tyler Perry fan as far as his work, as far as his movies, as far as I'm not even a big fan of the Medea character in general. But I was just recently in Atlanta visiting my mom, and to see that he's built such a big studio. They say it's bigger than Warner Brothers and
Yes.
Disney combined, and to have an exit off of the highway, it in a similar way, I feel like that's what I'm trying to build to. Is to have something so substantial that you've been able to build on your own, and that you're able to hire so many people. Like the greatest the greatest gratification I get is from seeing people that have been Blacktree alumnus go off and do great things, and I wish that we were a bigger media organization that could hire more people, that could have more journalists, because a lot of people are doing great things. Uh, Recently, one of my pupils, Rachel Scott, was named the White House correspondent for ABC, and she's not only the youngest, but she's the first Black White House correspondent for ABC. And she
Wow.
started. I had to go back and read the emails when she was a USC student, trying to get on the red carpet, and I gave her, those opportunities, and to see where she's at today is gratifying. And I want to be more of that, and I think about what Tyler Perry did with naming that studio after Viola Davis and naming it after Spike Lee and Will Smith, and having all these studios that he built in honor while these people are alive. And I'm really admire him for that. So I think I'm inspired by Tyler Perry, even if, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of his art. Ted Turner, for a similar reason, because Blacktree, him starting CNN gave me, and his story, which I studied while I was in college, of how he did it, kind of laid the groundwork for how I was trying to fight for Blacktree Media. And I don't think that without looking at what he did and what Rupert Murdoch was doing at the same time, in news media, I don't think I would have had the roadmap to even know which direction to go at certain points. So definitely him. And Spike Lee, just because of what he meant to the start of it. I mean, I just feel like I'll be remiss to not mention him. But there's been so many people that I could say. I mean, my track coach in high school was, yeah, I think he changed me as a young man whose father wasn't in the home, and gave him purpose and made him feel like working hard to accomplish something, you could see results. I mean, I think till this day, I always honor Coach Cobb and what he meant to my life. And I mean, what he still means to my life. He's still alive. He's in his late ages now, but there's so many people. I mean, I'm mad that there's not a woman named on the list. I mean, there's my mom. There's so many people that personally named, but those people in particular are like, I think I could see the triangle of how they kind of at least meant a lot for Blacktree, if not as much, for me.
And I know that's a difficult question. And that's why I say three, and people usually go over three because it is kind of difficult because you don't want to leave anybody out. But I think, and maybe I should preference the question differently. But even if I did preference it differently in terms of who was the people that inspire you in your career, it's
Yes.
still, so there's just no way of getting around it. But at the same time, I don't think it diminishes how you feel about other people if they're not mentioned. People get it and they know that you're
Yeah.
on the spot where Miss Kelly said, I just need three. Okay. And with Spike Lee, you said Spike Lee because you had to do the right thing with that. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
me some Spike. Okay, now we're kind of getting close to the end. What I want to know is, looking back over your life, what would your little 9-year-old boy say to the grown man you are now?
I think the 9-year-old me would just say, don't give up. I mean, I feel like a lot of times I got close and didn't get all the way through the finish line. Like, I feel like I stopped short, and of course it's always been hurdles, but I think the times that I stopped short in life, I regret. And with Blacktree, it was so much of I felt like it was a duty for me to keep Blacktree going. So I felt more compelled to where I couldn't give up. But I just feel like too many times in life I gave up too soon. And I think like a lot of times it gets super hard right before the end. And the 9-year-old person would just told me, like, you just got to push through that. Just know when it's getting hard that you're there and that you're about to be there. So just keep pushing. And I think that's something that to this day, like I try to be just have more stamina in whichever fight I'm trying to fight and trying to get through the end and fight. So I think that would be it. To enjoy what you do, which is what I learned along the way. Just to, if you enjoy your career, it's a lot less work than it is if you're doing something that you don't enjoy. So just kind of find your passion. It's kind of like finding the love of your life, or your partner, your soulmate. Is your career should kind of feel like that. It should kind of feel like you're in love with it in a way. And even when it's hard, you'll be able to work through get through the figure it out, because it's worth figuring out. And I think that would be some of the advice that I wish I had understood better at 9 years old.
But the beauty of it is that you saying this now, you're going to inspire someone else, and maybe it'll make their journey less painful. And I think that we all have to go through, hindsight is always 2020, right? And
Yeah,
that's why I asked the question, because looking back, you can even articulate it. Just being able to articulate it is a really good thing that's going to help someone else. So as we
right.
get ready to close, what I'd like to know now is, what can people do to join you in making sure Black media matters? What's next for you, and how can people be in touch with you?
Uh, as far as making sure Black media matters, I think you have to support. Um, I think the Black media organizations have to be. It's hard out here in the click game, where people want to get clicks, and they look for the easiest way to get clicks, which is controversy and doing stuff. And I think that if we as a people supported not as much of the tearing down of each other, but of uplifting each other, of uplifting stories, of retweeting that and sharing those posts, as opposed to whatever happened and whoever got locked up. I think if we celebrate our achievements a lot more, I think it will help support Black media. I mean, I think that's from internally from Black media doing it, and from the viewers. Um, I remember once that we was having a discussion, me and some of my colleagues, and we was like, I could have Michelle Obama one-on-one interview, and then have a Cardi B interview, and people would rather watch the Cardi B interview. And it's like, it's something about that mindset that no knock to Cardi B, but it's something about just where we're at as a people, and how we support each other. I think that says a lot to how Black media is also supported. But there's Black media suffers from a deficiency of money. When you see Ebony magazine struggling, you see Essence, even after its reorganization, now they've been hit some struggles. A lot of times it's because the corporate dollars that goes to the other media organizations don't come our way. And a lot of times, I know for the fact, before Black Tree ever, seen a profit, working. I was working other jobs so I could get a tuxedo, so I could get a plane ticket, so I could fly to California, so I could cover this event or that event. And it would be like a net profit loss for me all the time. And I was doing it just out of love. And I think if we could figure out how to support each other financially, which a lot of times it's just helping with viewership. If organizations are tied to advertising, it's just support them, retweet them, share them. Share those videos. And when you're a celebrity, don't wait till a Hollywood Reporter does an article about you to retweet it. When whoever does one that may not even have the views that Black Tree is, but they're a growing news organization. They're a journalist with a platform. Like, support that journalist. Retweet that person, because the bigger that person gets, the more powerful that person, that organization is to tell your story, to support you. And I had an incident that, I can't speak in all detail about it because I'm still kind of under contract with somebody, but I had a news story where somebody I really a young artist I really admire, he got in some trouble. Well, he got accused of something a long time ago, and he was acquitted of it. And the news organization, the one of the organizations I work for right now, one of the outlets, asked me to do a story. Well, they asked me to get an interview with this guy, and they couldn't get an interview, but I had this guy's personal phone number from our interaction some years ago. So I called him, I did an interview, and they turned that interview around to talk about the negatives in his past. And it really it really disturbed me to the point where now I'm trying to, finish up this contract so I can move on and do some other stuff. But I think that we have to, like, those people that I've covered for years know that I'm always there to uplift them and tell their story. I mean, I'm here to shine a light, not to just, find the darkness in their past or find the skeletons in their closet. I know journalism isn't always clean, and sometimes you have to tell like all these ugly stories that, people might not want to share or hear. But I think that if people are doing that you shine a light on them also, that you support them. And I always hear a lot of criticism about Black media and their tenor and whatever, but I spoke to Lakeith Stanfield the other day, who's starring in Judas and the Black Messiah, and he made similar comments about the Breakfast Club and Gossip and all. And I was like, but Lakeith, every time I've interviewed you, we've always talked about great stuff. I always talked about where you came from and who you are today. And you spend all that time talking about what these other organizations did, and not talking about the organizations that support you. And I think it's like that. I think we have to have the backs of the people that have our backs. And I think we could do better at that all the way around. And if we do better at that all the way around, we'd be supporting Black media. So that's a long answer for that part. As far as how people could reach out to me, you can find me at most on most platforms, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, or even our Facebook page under blacktreetv. There's also, I also have a personal Twitter, and which is my name, Jamaal Finkley, JAMAAL FINKLEY. But if you want to reach out to me for business or something else, LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach out to me. I'm not as much into my Twitter DMs or stuff like that, but I mean, what I do monitor a lot is my YouTube comments. So really, if you go to one of our latest videos and you're commenting on that video, I probably will see it personally. I'll tell you that honestly. But I feel like the best way to reach out on business is probably LinkedIn. I try to be as active on that as I can, which is not the best that I should be. But I do try to catch up on those messages, and if I feel like it's a personal message and not some forwarded message, I would definitely like take account of that and try to respond back in kind. So I think that's the best way to do it.
Right. Well, Jamaal, this has been such a wonderful time here with you, having you in the hot seat after you've interviewed so many wonderful people. I think the last interview that I saw with you was the one you did with Cicely Tyson
Mm.
before she passed away. And it was so beautiful because you were so emotional. So I'm sure that must have been such a pleasure to interview her. Before we say goodbye, could you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I've done thousands of interviews, and the only person, I mean, I have a huge crush on Regina King, so I should bring her flowers sometimes. But the only person I felt like Cicely Tyson, just because of what she stood for, just because of the roles that she wouldn't take, and just because she's been there as long as I've been watching stuff. I felt like when I first had that opportunity, like I was like, I gotta just bring her flowers. And
Mm.
it made me, I've had a couple of times to interview her since on the carpet. So that was the only time I was able to sit down with her. But when I did it, she was so appreciative that she sent me a thank you card. And I wish I could have shared that, but it's just because I've been moving around that I'm not with all of my archives of stuff. But she was real appreciative of it, and when she passed, it made me feel good that I gave her flowers while she was here, and that I could celebrate her
Absolutely.
right when she was in front of me, and that she know that that we respect her. And I was on Roland Martin's show the other day, and I was saying the same thing about Tyler Perry. I was like, he gave her a studio while she was here. So
Yes.
in a way, I feel like Cicely Tyson has been celebrated in life and not just in death, and I'm happy for that. I feel like uh, there was a public celebration for her in Harlem yesterday. Was it yesterday? It was the day before yesterday, which I attended, and I'm I'm proud to have given her a hug and have known her, and I hope that she's a shining example for all these young actresses, whether it's a Brisha Webb or whoever. There's a lot of great young actresses coming out right now, and I hope they could respect that the roles that she decided not to take and how she decided to represent her people. And I hope that they take that into account when they're choosing their roles and they're doing their projects. And going forward, I think that'll be a better representation for all of us. If we are more cognizant of what we choose to do and what we choose not to do. Just like that interview, I choose not to ask certain questions because it's not representative of what I want to shine a light on. So I hope that we just, you know, could do that. So yeah, that was a very real special moment to me, and I was touched. I cried when she died. Not because a celebrity's life is more important than all these other people that are dying, whether it's from the pandemic or otherwise, but it's just because I know that she's a symbol for so much, for so many
Yes,
people,
absolutely.
and I felt I felt like lucky to be one of the few people, because so many people see it on screen, but not that many people have had that opportunity to sit across from her. And it was a cry of like joy and celebration and sadness, and for her family and everything else. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she meant a lot. She means a
Ah,
lot to me. Yeah.
that was beautiful. So Jamaal, when COVID is over, you got to come back over for breakfast, right? I miss our little
Uh,
breakfasts.
I miss it too. I miss it too. I really hope we could get through this pandemic soon so that we could this
Definitely.
physical interaction is hurting a lot of people. It's a lot of seniors that, despite my personal circumstances, so many seniors and people that were lonely before, that this thing is just exacerbated to the point that their health is going down just because of loss of interaction. So I hope we could really get back to be able to hug people and see people and talk to people again. I mean, I really miss it. I mean, I really do.
I know
Yeah.
you do. Well, you know what? I want to thank you again for coming to Straight Talking with Kelly. And I do hope that the audience, once they see this video, that they take heed, listen to what you said, and share this particular podcast, because I think what you are saying is so important. We really need to really make Black Lives Matter as well as Black media, because if we don't have people like you making sure that our voices are being heard, that's why history has been rewritten so many times for us. And now all of a sudden, because of the internet, we're finding out we've done some incredible things. So
Yeah.
we have to make sure that our voice continues to be heard. So I am very proud of you. I am happy that even though the challenges are there, that you're still fighting through them, because one day you'll be able to sit back and say, oh my God, I did it. You're going to have that studio like a Tyler Perry. And the simple fact that even though he's not one of your biggest fan, you still can appreciate him for the things that he has done. So I want to say thank you for allowing me to interview you. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for all that you've meant to me and all the uplifting messages and support you've given me over the years. And I hope, if it's not my studio, I hope some of your viewers are sitting there trying to figure out how they could build other Black media organizations, because it's not just my Black outlet that matters or anybody. It's the fact that we're able to tell our own story, because we are, you know, media now is the hieroglyphics, it's the papyrus, it's everything that told the stories in the past. And if we don't own our own media, in 300 years, the story that they write will be the story that they write, and not our story. And I just hope that we are taking control of that, and that some of you guys out there are saying, like, let's build upon our existing media organizations, or let's build additional ones, because the more the better. We need I know I should shun the competition, but I'd rather have, you know, I'd rather have 50 Black outlets fighting for that spot than being the only Black outlet on the carpet, you know, at times. So I just rather be more of us. And I think if we learn the power of media and how powerful it is, to influential it is in politics and society, I think people would take heed and start trying to create more Black tree medias, you know, so to speak.
Well, you know what? Listening to you say that, I'm like, uh-oh, your phone's going to be ringing off the hook, because I'm thinking, okay, he can do a class to teach other people how to do what he did, so we can get those 300 outlets out there. So you think about that, because you have the know-how to get these people. So young people, hit him up. So thank you again, Jamaal Finkley, CEO of Black Tree Media. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Have a good day, okay?
Thank you. Take care.